our family and the way that we folded into each other like one of my grandma's quilts, edges coming together, softening. Most of all, I was grateful for the stillness of the pre-dawn hush, for the short reprieve when everything was dark and new, emerging. It was in these moments, as the day was still lifting its head, that I could believe everything was exactly as it should be, instead of the way it was. Not that life was horrible, far from it, but as the weeks and months circled on, I couldn't deny that our ramshackle family was often more off than on. The whole thing reminded me of Daniel's birthday present, a carved model train track. Though the sleek red engine could pull a chain of cars around the twining loops for hours on end, there inevitably came a moment when a single wheel tripped off the track. Who knew what caused the quiet stumble? It was a magician's trick, a sleight of hand, everything bustling along one minute and struggling the next. But the train kept going. The engine pulled on. It just dragged the coal cars behind it, clacking unevenly all the way. I felt just like that engine, hauling everything in my wake, hauling everyone in my wake. When I pulled back the shower curtain, it became obvious that the Desmit family train was already well on its way to derailment. There were worms in the bathtub, a dozen or more squirming in a mound of dirt so rich and black it made me think of cake, devil's food. I had specifically told Daniel not to put worms in the bathtub and had even given him an ice cream bucket in which to store his newest collection. My son needed to have his hearing checked again, I decided, but it was an exercise in futility. I knew that what plagued Daniel wasn't a hearing problem, it was a listening problem. As I deposited handfuls of squirming earthworms into the bucket I rescued from the front porch, I felt the momentary bliss of my morning slackening its fragile hold. Hot on the heels of the stark reminder that Daniel was an angel only when he slept, came a familiar twinge of worry for Simon, the boy who earned his wings in 1,000 different ways. By the time I finally stepped into the mud-streaked shower and turned it on full blast, I could feel concern overflow my fists like worry stones too heavy to hold. Handsome as Simon was, and growing more mature by the day, he still wore loss like a chain around his neck, heavy and awkward, dragging his head down. He loved us, I knew that, but he missed her. And why shouldn't he? Janice was a terrible mother to me, and yet I missed her every single day. I felt her absence in the shadowed corners of my heart, where longing echoed. It was a soundtrack of hurt, soft, but always there. And Janice had been a good mom to Simon, or at least as good as she could bring herself to be. No wonder he bore her ghost like an anchor. "Do you like it here?" I asked him once, in the beginning, when Janice's departure could still be considered nothing more than an extended trip. I had wanted to ask him, "Do you like us?" but I couldn't bring myself to say those exact words. All the same, Simon's eyes sprang to mine, wide and startled. The question was innocent, but the look on his 5-year-old face told me that the answer wasn't quite so benign. "It's okay," I said then, reaching to ruffle his hair. "You don't have to—" "I do," he interrupted me, and his voice cracked with the emotion behind the words. "I like it here." It took years for me to realize that the problem wasn't Simon's affection for this newfound family and home. It was his own fears about our affection for him. No matter how hard we tried to make him believe that he was a part of us, I knew he continued to battle the personal pain of wondering, deep down, if he was an outsider. And the problem was only exacerbated at Mason Elementary. Although I was quite sure that Simon was off the charts brilliant, the sort of student every teacher longed to shape and mold, he dreaded the start of a new school year. I knew it, even though he had never ventured to so much as whisper a word against his classmates. As far as I could tell, the kids were decent to him. Mason was a rural community, and the area boasted a substantial population of Latin American immigrants, many of them already second or third generation. The local schools were, at least in theory, diverse and welcoming. Simon seemed to fit right in.